Hi, welcome back, and moving into a slightly different realm, having a look at the news about motoring and vehicles. There's been a load of headlines lately in the popular media and tabloids talking about cars being limited to speed. They're going to have mandatory speed limiters fitted. And this is pretty disingenuous coming from the newspapers. I'm getting a bit sick of these guys with their clickbait style articles. I get that they have to sell product, but you know, the bottom line is they're really pushing the envelope with the truth here. So yes, there is some element of truth to this, and I've been driving over in Germany and Switzerland, in Norway as part of my job, and those cars have already had this mandatory limiter fitted. But the word limiter is kind of not quite right. They basically will utter a sound when you go over and above the speed limit. So a lot of cars already have this in the UK, and it has cameras etc that look and see what the speed limits are based on signage. That will then feed into the car's computer system, and it will know if you're going over and above that speed limit and will produce an audible warning basically. So it will ring a few times. You can choose to ignore that or not, entirely up to you. I'm sure there are conspiracy theorists out there are saying, well, the car's logging it. Yeah, our cars are probably logging everything these days, and they have been for a few years. They've all got massive computers in them now, so I'm sure they log stuff. I'm sure most of them are sending information back to the companies and whatever. But that aside, you can choose whether or not you want to abide by what the speed limiter is telling you. So it doesn't just cut out when you get to a certain speed. You know, we were on the Autobahn and going God knows how fast, and then when it came to slow down on certain parts of the Autobahn, obviously we were slowing down, but the thing would kick in and start ringing a bell at you, and then it was up to you how quickly you slowed down from the speed you were going. Now, the other thing to note is that on all the cars I had this on, I had it on a couple of BMWs, I had it on a Jaguar, that you also had the ability to switch it off. While it was mandatory that it was fitted, if you started the journey and you remembered to switch this thing off, you could actually do your whole journey without any audible warnings whatsoever. The caveat to that was you couldn't turn it off mid-drive. You know, you couldn't, if it started to happen whilst you were driving and you had forgotten to switch it off to begin with, you couldn't then switch it off. You would have to pull over, turn everything off, switch it back on again, and then turn this thing off. But really, guys, it wasn't a big deal at all. I've even seen stories about talking about retrofitting in cars. This is not going to be retrofitted in your car that's sat on the driveway that's 10 years old. There's no law requiring anyone to do that. I'm guessing with the retrofitting, again, the papers are bending the truth slightly, and it may be that cars that are in showrooms after a certain date that have not yet been sold, you know, that have been come over on a boat or whatever and are in effect brand new but have been sat around in the showroom for a while, they may by law have to have this system fitted. I would be very surprised if they didn't have it already. Most new cars already have this technology, but at the moment, the only difference being that you can choose if it turns on or if it turns off. My Range Rover has this. It's just an option that you can choose to turn on or off. The only difference is going to be it will be default on unless you switch it off at the beginning of the journey. That is literally it. That's not really a news story. There's nothing particularly exciting about that. No one's going to have to go out and replace things on their car. No one's going to get in massive trouble if they haven't got it on their car. It's a thing for the car dealers to be concerned about, and just something to note as you're beginning your journey. If you don't want annoying noises all the time, then switch the thing off when you start. Thanks a lot, guys. I hope that answers some of the questions that the ridiculous newspapers have been putting out. You know, I take all these things with a pinch of salt. The usual nonsense they talk about with vehicles, you know, oh my God, everyone's going to get a £5,000 fine this week, and it'll be with some absolute nonsense stuff that they're talking about, you know, some bizarre Road Traffic Act regulation, which everyone probably already knew in the first place. Don't eat at the wheel or whatever it is. But they make it sound like it's something new and incredibly dramatic. Just ignore them. They're literally baiting fear. You know, it's insane. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.